We are back on the fourth hour of Overdrive with the Alex Jones Show. I'm your host, Rob Dew, and I have a very special guest we're going to go to in one quick second. She's a whistleblower from Merck Pharmaceuticals. She used to work there selling Vioxx. She was a sales rep, and now she's come out, and I was talking to her in the car. Her name's Brandy Vaughn, and she said, what do you want to cover? I said, well, on Monday I covered the vitamin K shot and how the pediatricians don't want to give you the oral. They are pushing that shot. And she goes, oh, I've got some images that you want to see, But right before we get to that, I want to go over this article. This is from the Denver Post. Fight brewing between feds and kombucha tea makers. Now, what does that have to do with vaccines? Well, basically what's going on is the U.S. alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agents are worried about how much alcohol is in kombucha. And for years, U.S. Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau have monitored kombucha makers nationwide for violations of federal alcohol rules. A product with more than 0.5% alcohol by volume must be labeled as such. And it's critical that customers have that information for health, religious, or some other reasons, such as childhood consumption. Well, let's look at right here, guys, on the insert for Merck Vitamin K shot. Oh, it's got 0.9% alcohol in it. Yet they want to inject that into little babies, and there's not a big deal about it. Yet we've got a whole federal bureaucracy ready to go after people for making kombucha, something that's really good for you and something that you should be drinking if you're not drinking it already. I think it comes from Russia. There's villages in Russia where everybody lives to be 100, and they all drink kombucha. So at least that's what I've been told by the hippies out there that drink the kombucha. So Brandy Vaughn, welcome to the Alex Jones Show Overdrive Hour.
Thank you for having me here.
I'm so glad you came. And you're going to be on with Leanne McAdoo tomorrow. We're going to tape another segment. And we're going to take your calls, actually, coming up at the bottom of the hour. So 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Vaccine questions only, please. Nothing about pyramids or meteorites coming to hit us. Thank you. But getting into the vitamin K shot, I talked to you about that. You said, oh, wait, I've got two insert packages that show what? What are we going to see here?
Well, I thought it was interesting that you brought that up because I was just sent this week some photos from a nurse who took photos of the actual box that the vitamin K shot comes in, as well as the different vials. So there's two different makers. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure there's more than that, but these are the two popular ones that they were giving in her hospital. And as you'll see, one of the photos shows that it says contains no more than 100, or actually this is one. This one says the active ingredient in it is polysorbate 80.
Right.
And that is linked to infertility, strongly linked, as well as to autoimmune issues and all sorts of things.
And that's an additive they put in coloring as well.
It is.
And it's really bad for people. It's in a lot of other vaccines as well. It's not just the vitamin K shot,
right.
But I have on tape my pediatrician telling me it's very safe. The ingredients are no big deal. It's got a little bit of alcohol in it for preservation and some castor oil and the vitamin K, and that's about it. But as you can see there, that one's got polysorbate 80. Now, the other one is even worse.
Yes, and like you mentioned, a lot of doctors are telling new mothers, mm-hmm. Oh, it's just vitamin K and saline. Right. It's very, it's very safe. There's nothing dangerous in it. And clearly, either they're not telling the truth or they're not being told the truth. So the second picture is actually the vial of the vitamin K shot. And as you can read on the side, it says no more than 100 micrograms per liter of aluminum. And this is
a little aluminum for the newborn to help them think and process information better. To help maybe with breastfeeding or something like that.
Yes.
And then on top of that, you've got the MMR that they like to shoot into them in the second day.
That's actually the Hep B vaccine.
Hep B,
and it has 250 micrograms of aluminum. So newborn babies right out of the gate are getting 350 micrograms of aluminum. And this is a toxin, a known neurotoxin that should not be in our bodies in any amount.
Right.
It's linked to breast cancer. It's linked to Alzheimer's. It's linked to a lot of neurological issues as well as gut issues because the brain and the gut are linked through the lymphatic system. And this just does not belong in our babies. There's no reason that we should be shooting our babies up with this stuff
unless you want to cause problems down the road, which is what I firmly believe is what the purpose of all these vaccines in this many amounts over and over again, especially in young babies, is causing. It's causing people to be lifelong patients of the pharmaceutical companies so they can help with ADHD, asthma. Hey, we got a pill for that.
Right.
We're ready to help you right now. I mean, it's totally crazy. We're going to take some calls next segment. We're just scratching the surface of what's going on. I've got whistleblower Brandy Vaughn, used to work for Merck Pharmaceuticals, just horrible people out there that want to make sure you're safe and effective. This is Rob Dew reporting for Infowars.com. This is the Alex Jones Show Overdrive Hour. Thanks for watching. The toll-free number to call in, 800-259-9231, and you can ask your question to Merck whistleblower Brandy Vaughn, who's here in studio. After we do the interview here, she's going to go do an interview with Leanne McAdoo and cover a slide presentation she's put together. And that'll be on the InfoWars Nightly News tomorrow night, along with some of the callers that we're going to be getting. We have Shane calling from North Carolina. Anybody else want to call in with your vaccine question? 800-259-9231. Now, before we get to these callers, right now we have Secret 12. It's vitamin B12 supplement that we have at InfoWarsLife.com. It is 20% off. And also, you can start re-upping your supply of Super Male Vitality. These are the two actual vials that I take with me when I go play basketball. I'm playing basketball tonight, and before I step on the court, I do 2 dropperfuls of each, and it helps get me through the game. I'm already over 40, so I need to keep up with the 25-year-olds that I play against once a week, and you know, especially because I'm a taller guy, I have to get under the basket and rebound. So this helps me doing all that stuff. Super Male Vitality. It's been sold out for over a month, but now we're going to have a huge supply coming in. But get your order in now. It's one of our most popular products at InfoWarsLife.com, along with the Secret 12 Vitamin B12. And this is the vitamin B12 they have in here. I think it's the same type that they actually inject into you. So this is a really good source of vitamin B12. Gives you that extra energy, and the Super Male keep you going long into the night. Now, Brandy, we've got some callers coming in, but first, let's get to a couple of. You're really on the fight right now with this mandatory HPV vaccine. Tell us what's coming down the pipe with that.
Yeah, actually, the HPV vaccine, Gardasil, which is made by Merck, it's pretty much the driving force behind the mandatory vaccine laws that we're seeing. Merck, we call it in the industry, have to pay for Vioxx vaccine. And, you know, Vioxx, largest drug recall in the world, happened before. And now Merck has to make it. Yeah, it has to recoup some of those profits. And they priced it at $135 a dose, got the FDA to approve 3 doses within 6 months. It has huge, high aluminum content, like we were mentioning with the vitamin K shot. And they got it approved for boys and girls, 9 to 26. So they're looking at tens of billions of dollars with this. It's their new blockbuster. And that is really what's driving a lot of these mandatory vaccine laws.
And I don't know if you've seen the videos. There's videos, one that was out of, I think it was Colombia or Venezuela. And it was the room full of girls all convulsing at the same time. And they'd just been given the shot. The guy's on video going, we don't know what's going on. They told us to do this. We think there's something up. Please help us. Please help us. These people are utterly just being devastated around the world. It's not just in the United States. This is worldwide that this is a bioweapon, it seems like.
Right. Japan has taken it off of their recommended schedule. The EU just in September launched an investigation into the HPV vaccine after a great Danish documentary came out exposing how many serious reactions are being seen in populations of girls being given this vaccine. And there are lawsuits all around the country against Merck, against the vaccine maker, for injuries and deaths related to Gardasil. And that's one important point here in the U.S. Vaccines are, you know, completely protected, but have complete liability protection from the federal government. So those lawsuits that we're seeing around the world and the information that comes out in the discovery process of the judicial process, we can't do that here in the U.S.
It's all hidden.
It's all hidden. Yeah. And there's no liability, which means that vaccine makers make far more profit off of vaccines than they do normal pharmaceutical drugs.
And they don't pay for any of these payouts. It all comes from the dose that you pay for when you get the vaccine. $2 of that goes into this fund, it's a huge slush fund, but they've paid out over $3 billion already. So it's not safe and effective like they keep telling us. Let's go to Shane in North Carolina. Shane, what is on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to share my story. Actually, you were talking about the vitamin K shot, and that's one of them that you seldom hear people talk about. my wife
Baby's
and I
first
just had
shot.
our second. Yeah, we had our second baby boy about a month ago, and he arrived a week early. My wife and I were already looking into taking the vitamin K orally. We knew that we were going to refuse the Hep B, but we thought we had a week to, figure out which vitamin K we were going to buy and all that. And all of a sudden, she went into labor, and all of a sudden we were in the hospital and having this baby a week earlier than planned. So then, these people are coming around me with their clipboards and everything, talking about, like they do.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, well, we're not doing the Hep B. And then they're like, well, what about the vitamin K? I'm like, well, we were going to do that orally, but we thought the baby was coming a week later, so we didn't really make a decision. So I guess we'll just hold off on that one too. And then, they're like whispering and acting like it's the biggest deal in the world. Like they were making a bigger deal about me not getting the vitamin K than they were about the Hep B.
Yeah.
They had my pediatrician call me. And my pediatrician called. He was somehow affiliated with their hospital, apparently, but he called and said, "Yeah, we just kind of want to know why don't you want to get this vitamin K?" And like everyone was asking me,
and they try to scare you with the bleeding that could happen and everything else. Yeah, they really put that scare tactic on you. I've gone through it with 4 kids, and every time it's a different tactic that they use. This last time, I said, I'm just going to record what they say, and then, play it for the world to hear so they can build upon their, cachet of experience. So did you end up doing it or what happened? What was the final result?
First of all, I wasn't prepared to deal with this reaction from them. It freaked me out. And then, of course, my wife is not quite where I'm at with all of this stuff, okay? The vaccines, and our first son has only had the DTaP against my will, but my wife felt very strongly about it. She said, "Well, let's just get it." We have to. She got kind of scared into, let's just get the K vaccine. And then I was just like, I don't know, let's just wait. We can just get him some drops, and I'll get him sent within the next day or two. But they freaked out about it. So then my pediatrician called, and I said, yeah, I don't feel comfortable injecting this into my baby. And he said, well, you can, technically take it orally. So I ended up deciding to do that. And I kind of regret it, hearing everything that you talked about, being in it. But I suppose it's better to take it orally than to have that injected mainlined into a newborn. But that's what we ended up doing at the hospital. Is he took a certain amount of it orally, an amount that was recommended by the pediatrician.
Right.
And it was actually right from the vaccine.
Yeah, they just take it out, and right, they do that, and because they don't really have anything on hand, and that's what they try to say. Well, we don't have that on hand. We just have to give them the regular one. And then with my case, they wanted to give them more down the line, and we ended up going to a compounding pharmacy, which are kind of rare, I found out, but they were able to make a really pure version of vitamin K for us without any preservatives or anything. Really, really nice people at People's Pharmacy. But do you have anything to add?
Yeah. I had my son in Holland, and granted, it was a home birth, but there was no talk about the vitamin K shot.
Right.
So this standard protocol that's going on here in the U.S., outside in other countries, this is not the same. It's not the same standard protocol. I never heard about vitamin K. They didn't even talk to me about vaccines. They said at his 2-month appointment with the midwives, do you want to talk about vaccines? Some parents do. I said, why would I want to do that? He's perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
And she's like, great, because we don't want to talk about them either.
Exactly.
So I think we have this idea that everywhere in the world does it just like the U.S. And here in the U.S. we do it far differently. And these things that they try to push on us as standard protocol in the hospital and when we're giving birth and with our children with the whole vaccine program, this is not how it's done in the rest of the world.
Right. Well, yeah, we lead the world with our vaccine schedule, and we lead the world with infant mortality in developing countries. To be fair.
In developed countries, yeah.
In developed countries. Yeah, exactly. I still think we are developing in some ways.
Yeah.
Mike in Tennessee, what is your question?
I just wanted to find out, did you work at the facility in Marietta, Georgia?
No, I was a sales rep. and I repped Vioxx. And that experience showed me that things that are on the market are not necessarily safe, and there's a lot of corruption behind the scenes.
Well, if you ever have an opportunity, I know someone personally that worked there for many, many years, and just walking through there and just looking at the procedures, the way that this is done, the way these things are manufactured, you would want to think twice about putting any of that stuff in your body. And, of course, as you touched on, have your kids at home, keep them there, keep your money in your pocket. Don't submit to these authoritarians who, I mean, they're out of their mind sociopaths, and anybody that would listen to them is just insane.
Totally agree. I mean, bovine serum, people even know what that is. Diploid cells, those are made out of aborted fetal cells.
Dog kidney cells?
Yeah, that's the stuff monkey kidney cells in the polio vaccine. That's the stuff they inject people with. And you don't know what that's doing on a DNA level.
Yeah, it's damaging our DNA.
Right. And they're not doing those tests. I guarantee you. Right. They're not doing those tests. They're going, are you getting sick? Are you dying? Okay, it's safe and effective. Let's get it out. Let's get it out the door.
There's no long-term safety studies.
Right.
So, and the FDA often fast tracks them. And a lot of people don't realize the safety studies that are done on vaccines, they're not done with the proper placebos. It's very substandard safety testing. No long-term, no combination doses, even though we give kids 6 to 9 doses, sometimes more at baby visits. There's so much people aren't hearing behind the scenes. The safety testing is not like even pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, pharmaceutical drugs slip through the cracks. Well, vaccines slip through far bigger cracks.
Canyons.
Yes,
they're slipping through canyons. They're just wheeling them in, going, how many can we get?
Exactly.
They've got 271 new vaccinations that they want to come out with.
Right.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
It's a totally untapped market for pharmaceutical companies. Like, they're looking at a pharmaceutical drug market that's completely saturated, a bunch of competition, high hurdles of safety testing to get into the market. And then vaccines, I mean, look at all these disease states that they could come up with vaccines for. They're coming up with an anthrax vaccine, cancer, HIV.
An anti-government vaccine.
Exactly. I would never want these things put into my body, dead or alive. They don't belong in my body. And they're coming, and that's what people don't understand.
And it starts in California. SB 277 is their opening salvo, and when it sticks there and people don't fight back, it's going to continue to move. It's going to go west. It'll probably go from California all the way to Massachusetts and Rhode Island and those New England states, and then it's going to make its way into the heartland. I think Texas might hold out a little bit, but we'll see. So. Yeah, we'll see. Thanks for the call, Mike. John, what is your question?
Yes, Brandy, thank you for what you're doing. It's wonderful to see someone that is exposing what's going on in this Merck industry. You said you were involved with Vioxx?
Yes.
Yeah, they lost a lawsuit, didn't they? And my sister, who is a vaccine researcher in South Carolina, Mary Toko, and she does have a website, childhoodshots.com, but she's been doing this for over 35 years. She ran into an attorney there in South Carolina that represented the defendants, and he told her that they came out with the Gardasil to pick up the extra money that they lost on the lawsuit, and that's why it's being promoted from one standpoint. But if you could ever get a hold of my sister, she would probably be very happy to hear your information. She's at childhoodshots.com, and her name is Mary Toko.
Great.
I've heard her name out there. I can't remember anything recently that I've seen from her, but yeah, I've seen her out there. There's a lot of good people. Dr. Humphreys, Susan Humphreys is out there fighting it. Sherry Tenpenny. There's a lot of people really fighting this issue. Yeah. And it's great to see people coming together, more people like yourself speaking out against this. So it's really given hope, I think, to parents, because one thing the pediatrician said was it must be really scary being a parent now because there's so much information. And the whole time she was saying that, I was thinking, she really means it's so hard and scary being a pediatrician because there's so much information that parents are arming themselves with, and they're standing up and saying no to that regimented schedule of just injecting aluminum into your body. And if, go listen to Dr. Blaylock give a 2-hour speech on what aluminum does when it goes into your brain. And all they do when they do these studies, and correct me if I'm wrong, they just test for antibodies. They just go, oh, you got antibodies. That means it works. And what's going on is these adjuvants like aluminum and mercury are stimulating the brain and creating antibodies. And they go, oh, well, there's your proof that it works. There's your proof that it's safe and effective. Is that right? Is that how they do that?
Yes. And one thing that I think people aren't aware of is that in a natural environment, we would never come into contact with 6 to 9 pathogens at one time. So when we're injecting this with the adjuvants, which are heavy metals, which are very toxic and hard to detox from, as well as additives like formaldehyde and the monkey and the animal and human cells, DNA, polysorbate 80, MSG, which we're supposed to avoid in Chinese food, right?
Right.
And mercury, which we're supposed to avoid in fish.
But it's okay to inject in your veins.
To inject into the bloodstream where it goes straight to the vital organs.
Right.
What we're seeing when you inject so many vaccine doses and so many pathogens with all of these adjuvants, the body has no idea what's going on. We're overwhelming the immune system. And so this is where we're seeing all of these autoimmune issues, the food allergies, asthma, eczema, psoriasis, lupus, all of these types of things, because the body just starts fighting everything. It starts
attacking itself.
Yeah,
it attacks itself.
And it attacks things like peanut oil, peanut allergies, or because peanut oil is used
off the
as a stabilizer.
charts. There's like 5 kids in my neighborhood who can't have peanut butter, and if my kids eat peanut butter sandwiches, they have to go outside. It's ridiculous.
Yes, and these are things, and people are accepting this as a new normal in the U.S. When I had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all the time when I was a child. We all grew up on that.
Wait a minute. I think we're being racist now. That's actually a racist term to say peanut butter and jelly sandwich, so we gotta cut that line of conversation. Hey, go to our next caller. MJ in Georgia wants to talk about the vitamin K shot. What's on your mind, MJ?
Just a few quick things. I've looked at quite a bit of your work, Brandy, online and done some research myself, but I'm actually soon to be father, and I was researching vitamin K myself, and benzene, the benzene alcohol that's in there is actually a chemical that they put in ethanol, so you can't drink it as moonshine. And if you drink it, it of course makes you sick. Secondly, I called around doctors to, one, try to see if any type of drops were available, but they make it unavailable to you. But if you read the insert on the vaccine says that if this intravenous shot can be avoided, it should be avoided, you know what I mean, because of the toxic levels that I didn't know they had aluminum in it. I really want to avoid it, but my wife is on the fence. And they scare them. They tell them that specifically dealing with like natural births and midwives, they tell you it's a risk involved with the baby coming through the birth canal and there's pressure on his head and he could have internal bleeding. And they really try to scare you into it. And one, I was wondering if, you know, possibly, Brandy, if you could talk to my fiance, or we can, you know, have a conversation offline or something and maybe try to get this taken care of before it's too late. Honestly, I really don't want to do it. I'm trying to find the drops, but they make it virtually impossible to find the shots, especially where I am here in Georgia. I haven't been able to find them yet. I've been searching for about a week, and I've been unsuccessful. If any help from you guys I would appreciate.
Well, let me just say this. Brandy's not a doctor, and she can't provide medical advice, but we can sit here and bitch about these all day long. Do your own research. I would say check out Dr. Sherry Tenpenny online. She's got some videos specifically about the vitamin K shot. And I can tell you from my own experience, my wife doubled and tripled up on kale. Kale has high amounts of vitamin K in it, and that's what we did. So take that for what it's worth. We're going to be back with one more segment with Brandy Vaughn, Whistleblower from Merck. Stay tuned. It's the 4th hour of Overdrive. Final segment of the Overdrive Hour. This is Rob Dew, your host. I'm joined in studio with Brandy Vaughn, Merck Whistleblower, and we've been having a very lively conversation about vaccines. I really get amped up about vaccines, and I didn't know I was doing the show till I got here today, and when I found out I was going to be talking to Brandy, who I've watched her videos, she's been attacked for come and speaking out, especially with SB 277. We may have time to get into that, or you'll cover it with Leanne. We do have some more callers. So let's go to Brenda, who's a medical assistant, wants to talk about vaccines, calling from Wisconsin.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing great. What's on your mind?
Well, like 20 years ago, I was a medical assistant for a holistic MD MRCP in the Lake Geneva area, and I learned a lot. We used homeopathics, and then I went back to school, got my certification for medical assistant, and worked in mainstream medicine. Well, you know, it's ridiculous how many vaccines they give to babies, you know, at a time. And sometimes they don't even we're required to give out a vaccination information sheet.
Right, which is not the insert. It's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and it just says they're safe and effective, and don't worry. And if you notice anything, let us know, and maybe we'll deal with it. Right? Is that?
And we'll tell you it's a coincidence.
We'll tell you it's a coincidence, and that's normal. We had a guy in here, Marcos, who's talking about, he actually went on the air and talked about how I think his oldest girl got vaccinated and was crying constantly for 12 hours. And I said, oh, that's normal.
Yeah.
That's normal.
No, that's because of the brain swelling.
That is an
and
attack.
The cerebral seizures.
Exactly. Thanks for calling in, Brenda. We had somebody call in and said vaccines, any good ones. He's hung up now, but you were saying, what were you saying about vaccines? Are there any good ones or bad ones? What can we trust?
I think every parent should do the research because the children deserve it.
Totally.
My son is vax-free, and I don't feel that there are any that the benefits outweigh the risk by far.
Exactly. My two youngest are completely vax-free, and my two oldest have very, very small amounts that I was against the whole time. But I had to fight the medical establishment and my wife. But it can be done. We had a caller who was talking about his wife. You just got to do the research. Get the inserts. You can look them up online. All you got to do is type in the vaccine in the insert. There's a whole page of them on websites out there, and you can read the actual insert that comes from the company, and you can read about all the things they cause. Bill, Indiana, you think charcoal is effective against the shots, or were you calling to ask if charcoal was effective?
Rob, is charcoal effective? If you're in a corner and you have to take the shots, would charcoal be an effective way to filter some of that poison out of your system?
It's probably better than nothing, but I don't know. I mean, they're injecting it into your body and not into your stomach. So.
That's the thing with charcoal is that you're ingesting it, and what happens with vaccines is they go straight into your bloodstream and straight to your vital organs without going through the detox process, through the kidney, through the lungs, or the skin. So it's probably better than nothing. It is a detox. But how much help it is, I guess it depends on the person, and yeah.
And you can find videos out there. I think Dr. Blaylock has one too. If you have to take the shot, this is what to do. He mentioned some stuff. He's got some great information. There's a lot of great information out there, which is really awesome to see. Alex in Virginia, what is your question?
Hey, Rob. I just wanted to make a couple comments. My father-in-law is a construction worker, and he was working at the Merck facility here in Virginia, and he would tell me stories about how it was so toxic they have to wear these masks and stuff to be able to even go in there and work. It's so bad.
Yeah. If you got to wear a spacesuit to go to the building, I mean, what do you think they're putting in these things?
Yeah.
And it's, I don't think it's for your health.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Brandy, you're going to exactly. You're going to be getting together with Leanne McAdoo, talking more. We'll probably do an extended interview, maybe play part of it then, and then more out later because you got so much information, and we're just out of time. So join us.
Thanks for having me.
Tonight, 7 p.m. Central, InfoWars Nightly News.